We're not hosting an intergalactic kegger down here. It's time for Science! SciFriday on SkyWatchTV. Welcome. I'm Derek Gilbert. Sitting next to me, my favorite person in the world, the SkyWatchTV science editor, my best friend, my wife, Sharon K. Gilbert.
Hi, honey. Men in Black, right?
Yes, very good. Agent Zed.
Oh, gosh, that actor is so
Rip Torn.
funny. Yes.
Yeah.
No, not Rip Torn. No, Rip Torn, yes.
Yes.
Rip Taylor's the outrageously flamboyant one.
Yes. The one who was on the Gong Show all the time. Different Rip entirely.
Totally
Yes.
different. And not a Rip in space-time. But
No.
could have been. Easily could have been on that show.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a while, been a whole week, and you know what? We don't have enough hours in the day.
That's true.
To talk about all the shows, all the programs, and all the stories that we want to. And speaking of programs, I think we mentioned this briefly last week, but I'll say it again. If you think that you would find a program about memes in media, and that talks about graphic novels, any fiction work, television,
Movies, video games,
anything that we consume. I would say even getting into social media.
Yeah.
If you find that interesting, let us know, because we're sort of playing with the idea of putting together a program like that would come out weekly. So that would mean that you and I actually have consumed more television,
media, yeah.
more movies.
Sit there with a bowl of snacks and say, "This is research. Don't bother me."
Well, speaking of social media, there's a story that came out today. The FATE conference, the F8 conference, just took place the other day. Excuse me, the other day. Mark Zuckerberg was introducing the changes in Facebook and also the Messenger app, which has become their primary source of income, I think, because it's being used on phones. And that's where most of the social media stuff is taking place now. They want to be the Amazon all-in-one solution for your phone. They want to be everything in social media that you could ever think you need to do with another person. That involves finding the person on a map, talking to the person, sharing, via little videos, but also having the ability to buy in-app purchases. Messenger apps that are built on top of the app itself. In other words, it's conglomerate. It's everything in one. And that, to me, is a little scary.
Well, there are a couple aspects to this that I think people need to understand. Facebook laid out billions of dollars to purchase the company WhatsApp, which is a huge messaging application. So it's now owned by Facebook. And between Facebook's Messenger and WhatsApp, people send 60 billion messages per day. 60 billion messages per day.
A lot of content takes place. And these bots, these little in-app applications or little applets, these really bots are going to be talking to you. You may not realize it when you go online or even when you answer the phone or make a phone call, that the system that is interacting with you saying, "May I help you today?" It's not a live person.
Right.
It's a bot. And these bots will be acting as your concierge in the Facebook world. And you want to go to the ball game, go see the Cubs. When you get there, you can use the same Facebook app to also order your snacks from the vendors.
Right.
They'll bring them to you. And you pay for it right there.
So this is one of the reasons that Facebook has been investing heavily in developing an artificial intelligence.
Yes, it's one of the reasons. I suspect that it goes beyond that, because they also want to get into the Internet of Things and virtual reality, which is not just disappearing into your head, but also overlaying a virtual world on top of the real one.
Right. Now, I've talked about this recently because Facebook also laid out a couple of $1 billion to purchase the company that was developing the Oculus Rift, which is that virtual reality headset, a totally immersive viewer port, basically, that makes you believe that you're in a 360-degree virtual reality. The thing is that analysts believe that what's really going to drive the profits for Facebook through Oculus Rift is VR porn. Which is not a surprise, because almost every development for streaming video on the internet has been to facilitate the delivery of pornography into laptops, tablets, and smartphones.
Yeah, well, you and I have talked a number of times also on this program that we of course, are both writers, and I'm writing a fiction work right now, series of books that take place in the late 19th century. At that time, the advances in photography and early filmmaking occurred because of pornography.
Right,
pornography has often led scientific and industrial development.
Right, and it seems like every time we hear this kind of information, we're shocked by it. But as you just, I mean, that's a really good point. I was not aware of that, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that is one of the strongest drives in us humans. And of course, the enemy is going to try to exploit that in order to drive apart our families, because there's all kinds of research showing the destructive and corrosive influence that pornography has on relationships between husbands and wives, men and women.
Absolutely. Well, I honestly believe that every couple at some point encounters that real major challenge to their marriage. If you haven't encountered it, then more than likely
then you are truly blessed. Yeah.
You are truly blessed. It's rare because in this world of the internet, it's so easy to get involved in it and to get lured into it without knowing it. There are a lot of kids who develop that appetite for it and that addiction to it in their very early years, sometimes preschool years.
Yeah. And we as parents have not done an adequate job of explaining why this is not something that is acceptable. In fact, there was a recent research study by the Barna Group, which they track the state of Christian belief in the country, and they found that among millennials, 18 to 34-year-olds in America right now, more of them consider not recycling to be wrong than consider viewing hardcore pornography to be wrong.
I think part of the problem, too, is that our schools are encouraging young people to explore their sexuality.
Yes.
And they are essentially teaching our kids from almost the cradle up that exploring the sexuality, being a sexual being, is something you should be proud of and not ashamed of. The fact is, our Lord God Creator made us, wired us to have a one-to-one relationship, a male with a female.
Right.
But free will, again, I'll say again, free will means you get to choose whatever you want to do. And it's not I don't get to choose it for you. But I would rather my child not be so programmed, in those early years. Right. Because as the Bible says, those early years are extremely formative. Teach a child, when they're older, and in the way they should go when they're old, they will not depart from it because they have essentially been wired that way.
Right. And speaking of wiring, and this is something that really shocked me when I read this, there are certain chemicals that are released in the brain when viewing pornography. Yeah. And recent research has shown that it actually changes, even in adult men and women, it changes the way the neurons in your brain interconnect. Literally, viewing pornography rewires your brain.
Yes. It does. It will cause you to have associations one with another, and you will find that. And if you have children watching right now, you want to just maybe move into the other room because I'm going to be specific. You will be unable to achieve arousal without those connections taking place. In other words, if you learn when you're young that bondage activity, those sadomasochistic activities are what entices you and helps to arouse you, you will not be able to achieve it without it. And you will somehow, that addiction, if the world says there's nothing wrong with that, then you will be taught to have no shame. Right. And we need shame. That tells us that that's the Holy Spirit speaking to us, for goodness sake.
Amen. And when I used to hear the term sexual addiction, I thought it was just a term that was being made up for therapists to have another disease, another type of another category of illness that they could treat. But the fact is that those chemicals released into the brain are as addictive, in fact more addictive according to research I've read, than the high that you get from snorting cocaine. Yeah. So it is truly an addiction when you get into it. And again, it is literally rewiring the human brain and programming you for the behavior that God has said, that look, this is sinful. And it's not sinful because God is a a prude. I mean, God was the creator of
He's
the
the one
physical
designed us
bond.
to interact the way we do.
Exactly. The bond between a man and a
Yeah.
woman, but then also defined and said that, outside that bond between one man and one woman, this behavior is not acceptable, and there's some very good reasons for that. And I don't know if I've said this on this program before, but there was a men's conference I attended once, and the speaker said something I thought was just really profound. The family unit is the smallest battle formation in the spiritual war on which we are all deployed, and that's why the enemy spends so much time and effort trying to break it apart. And pornography, because men in particular were such visual creatures, it is a weakness for us, and the enemy hits us there all the time.
Well, the major surprise to many watching is, I'm going to say, that women also can be addicted to pornography, and it's generally not visual. It's something in our imagination. It's generally in a novel form, and I'm writing a novel right now which takes place in the 19th century, as I said earlier, and I'm really trying very, very hard not to make it what, again, get your kids out of the room, a bodice ripper. Because in the secular world, that's what a woman's fantasy historical novel is all about. Boy, SciFriday, we're going in directions. But social media, as you were saying, that is leading the charge on pornography.
Right. And one of the main reasons, and in fact, later this year, we're going to interview a woman whose ministry is devoted to trying to rescue children out of sex trafficking, which is a much bigger problem, even in the United States, than we think it is. It's part of our society that we don't want to think about. And because we don't think about it, it's allowed to remain as long as it stays in the shadows. But it is a real problem. There was a day when we were growing up, when we didn't have social media, we didn't have smartphones, tablets, and laptops with a window into the world.
And chisels.
I came along a little later. We at least had black and white TV. But Mom and Dad had the control of the television. And if they didn't think the program was appropriate, we didn't watch it. And there were people out there that, we were taught through, officer friendly coming to our class in school to beware of stranger danger. So, there were people that Mom and Dad would not allow us to, they were our, if you will, Dad was like the sheepdog who made sure that his flock was safe.
And your dad did a wonderful job.
He did.
Too. And mine did too, and he kept a shotgun in the house.
That's right. But today, because we're giving our children, young children, smartphones that are connected to the internet 24 hours a day, and they're accessing through these types of social media communication apps, messenger apps, that we don't even know that they have on their phones. There are people entering their bedrooms that we would never let past the front door of our house.
Never, never. And if parents thought of it that way, if they had pictured their house with every window open, every door open, and all sorts of unsavory people coming in to their children in private, they might think again about allowing them to have their own little cell phone in their bedrooms. Right.
Well, now I'm sure that Facebook is not, thinking along these lines necessarily, but again, the Oculus Rift is kind of what took us down this route. The AI, and by making Facebook and its messenger app an integral part of our daily lives, of course, they are collecting tons and tons of data, which again the intelligence community is intensely jealous of, because Facebook has managed to do in 10 years what the CIA couldn't do in 65, which is get us to volunteer all of this information.
Here, let me tell you what I'm doing today. In fact, Google also they've updated their calendar app on the phones, and it will now help you to program your day. All you have to do is say, Google Calendar, I would love to lose some weight. So help me to walk every day. It will go through and it will bug you and say, okay, I found a spot in your day that works for every day this week, and I want you to walk then. Nag, nag, nag until you tell it you've done it. Talk about bots, and that this is essentially what this is. It's another concierge bot that's just coming in and saying, all I want to do is just make your day happier. I'm here for you, Derek.
Yeah, just think about that. You could very soon have a Terminator as your exercise coach. Well, we will continue talking about health. There's a disturbing story coming out of Africa that Sharon has found and wants to discuss, and we will tell you about that next as SciFriday continues on SkyWatch TV. To celebrate the release of Nita Horn's inspiring new book, No Fences, SkyWatch TV would like you to tell your story, because after all, even if you don't think so, you actually have a story.
send in your story, and we are going to choose the 10 best, and they'll be published for Christmas release in an anthology of those stories, along with the book that you buy that is actually only $19.95. Am I right on that?
That's correct.
For free. Tom Horn, crazy guy, he's throwing in a journal which on its own, most of these retail for $20 on their own. So this journal is to help you start writing your story. When you buy the book, not only are you going to be enrolled in this and you can send in your story, but you'll get a plastic pony, you'll get a journal of your own, and the proceeds from the book are going to help fund the studio we're building for SkyWatch Women, and Nita Horn is going to be one of our panel members.
The 10 authors who are selected for the anthology, published by Defender Publishing in time for Christmas, will also receive a $500 cash prize.
That'll go a long way at Christmas time, won't it?
Yes, it will. Even if your story is not one of those selected for the anthology, if you've taken the time to write your story, you've left a legacy for your children and for your grandchildren.
Amen to that.
For complete instructions and details on this opportunity, please log on to skywatchtv.com/nofences. Welcome back to SciFriday on SkyWatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert with Sharon Gilbert. And in Africa, where we've had a number of stories that we've been tracking in recent years, that's where the Zika virus emerged. Of course, there was the Ebola outbreak about 18 months ago.
In fact, there's still Ebola going on in Liberia.
Still cases popping up, yeah. But there's another, in Kenya, there was a story that caught your attention.
Yes, 39 children have died of influenza so far in Kenya, and it's been very recent. It's been in a short span of time, and the government there is very concerned about this. The people, of course, very, very often, even in the very modern areas of Africa, historically are still very superstitious, and they're not trusting of Western medicine at all in many cases. And when we go in to vaccinate or to try to help, this is something that Doctors Without Borders and the World Health Organization and CDC doctors run into all the time when they go in to help. You're Americans, you're not African, I don't trust you, you're here to kill us. That's how they see it. And I'm not so sure I'd see it any differently if I were, them. But 39 children have died, and they have, most of them, if not all, I'm still trying to sort through all of the stories on this, have been treated with antivirals. I don't know which yet they've been treated with. I assume it's Tamiflu, because that's generally the one that's used against influenza, but it is not working. And the children have died. Whether they've died of the influenza or the virus or both, we don't yet know, but it's definitely something to be concerned about. The government in Nairobi is just all over this. So the CDC is now going in. They're going to take samples and try to figure out exactly what strain is there and what's going on. Also, there was, Wisconsin is having an outbreak of Elizabeth Kingia. I've also heard it pronounced Elizabeth Kingia.
Well, that's by me, so I don't know what I'm talking
about. Yes. You don't often hear this one pronounced because it's a bacterium that was discovered by a female doctor, scientist named Elizabeth King. But generally, when you pronounce these names, an I following a G, it makes it a J sound. But whether or not, it has killed a number of people in Wisconsin, and I forgot to turn my sound down, and it's telling me we have to record SciFriday. My little bot came in and said, don't forget to record SciFriday today. This is killing a number of people, and what I find really disturbing is that this may be nosocomial in the way it's being transmitted.
Nosocomial.
That generally is in a hospital setting. It's spread by healthcare workers from room to room. It's generally because poor sterile techniques, hand washing, gloving, those haven't been practiced judiciously. Whether or not this is going to continue, I don't know. The CDC is going in to take, again, samples. But this particular disease is very difficult to genotype. There aren't that many kits out there to do it. Right now, the CDC is the only lab that can do it. So we need to pray that this is, they figure out the source now. My understanding also is that it's a gram-negative bacteria, which is kind of hard to fight, but it's found in many water and soil types. But these are people who are homebound, unable to go outside, or institutionalized for the most part, which is why I say it may be nosocomial. Either it's being spread within the institution, and maybe there are one or two people who also do home care, and they go to these individuals in their homes and take care of them. I hope it's as simple as that, because then they can track it down and take care of it. But if it is something else in the water, in a purification system that's not working correctly, we have yet to learn it. Remember years ago when Legionnaire's disease was occurring? That was a big mystery for a long time, and now they understand what causes it. But it still pops up from time to time.
Yeah, 20 people have died so far. The first confirmed death in Illinois took place in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, Lake Villa. It first was discovered in Wisconsin last fall, and again, they still don't know how it's been spread. So
no,
yeah, this
and
is
here's
really
the
a
interesting
concern.
thing. It is in 13 counties, so the odds of one person or maybe 2 or 3 people spreading it is pretty small, because home care workers, even if they do work in an institution like a nursing home or something like that, generally don't cover 13 counties.
Right, that's a huge
Somebody
area.
who covers 13 counties is more likely to be a county or a state healthcare person.
But again, it's crossed state line now, so the first case confirmed in Illinois.
Yeah. And speaking of confirmations, the CDC has now come out and said that they believe it is confirmed that Zika does cause microcephaly.
Yeah, this was a big, in fact, I heard a section, just a brief snip from the press conference held by Michael Osterholm of CIDRAP, which is the Center for Infectious Disease, and I forget what the RAP stands for, but
He raps.
but discussing that. And I know that that's been something where people have been somewhat cynical about Zika, and there have been some who've gone so far as to say that it's not the virus that's caused this issue, but some of the chemicals used to kill mosquitoes in Brazil, or genetically modified crops. There have been alternate explanations floated for this.
Michael Osterholm is not one who is afraid of controversy. He was one of the early scientists who came out during the Ebola crisis and said, we know and have known for a while that it is communicable through the air. It is transmissible through the air.
And this is while the CDC was saying it was not. You can only get it if somebody leaves,
and he took a huge chance.
Right.
He could easily have lost his job or lost all credibility with the community, but he did not.
Right.
And so when he says something, I find it has more weight than when maybe others say it.
Credible,
so, yeah.
It's the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy. Yeah. It's based out of the University of Minnesota.
He's an expert in epidemiology, so he knows what he's talking about. There is also a disease of the brain and nervous system that is being linked with Zika virus. It's an autoimmune disorder that attacks the myelin of the nerves in a similar way that multiple sclerosis does.
Oh.
So this is a very big problem. If indeed this is correct, it's being called acute disseminated encephalomyelitis, so ADEM, EDEM. And apparently in a short, very small study, about half the patients followed developed Guillain-Barré, which is also a nervous problem. The other half, approximately, developed ADEM. This could be a real game changer if the Anopheles mosquitoes Egypti mosquitoes that spread Zika in the United States begin to actually carry that disease.
Yeah. So you got multiple ways that the Zika virus attacks humans, attacks the adults.
Possibly microcephaly.
Right.
Probably Guillain-Barré. And possibly this ADEM.
Yeah, and we got to keep a close watch on what follows the Summer Olympics down in Brazil.
Exactly, because those athletes are coming home.
Right, and that may take this virus to the entire world.
Yeah, it may.
Well,
we're nearly out of time again.
We nearly are.
We have time for one more story. And I don't know that it's something that we've really talked about, though I think I mentioned it a couple of times. And that is that you can now buy, for about $800, your own Bento Lab do-it-yourself DNA analysis kit. It comes with a centrifuge, also a place where you can do the electrophoresis gel examination, and a place where you can actually use a PCR built into it that allows you to amplify the sample. This is something that would cost tens of thousands of dollars if you had your own lab, but now for about $800, Tom Horn, I want my own copy, that you could do this at home.
Yeah, it's part of a bigger trend called grinding.
Yeah.
Biohacking.
Biohacking is a huge trend.
Yeah, and we'll have to do
we could
more
do
on
a whole
that.
program on
Yeah,
that.
because it is frightening, but you're getting people who are actually getting together in small communities out of sight of the authorities so that they can basically experiment on themselves.
Yeah.
It's like a 1930s horror film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Well,
or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Well, don't forget, if you've got suggestions for us, as much as we try to comb through the news, we can't get all of it, but we do try to post what we can find to our official Facebook page, and rather than read out the whole address, we'll just put it across the screen here. And of course, you can send us email, SciFriday@SkyWatchTV.com.
I think that's it.
All right. Well, during the month of April, for your thanks, or for your support of $20 or more, we're offering these gifts as our thank you to you. This Amazing Grace glass paperweight, and of course the
it's really
audio.
pretty too. I have one in my office.
It really is. And then the audiobook edition of Tom and Nita Horn's terrifying novel, The Ahriman Gate.
Which you were privileged to get to read.
Yes.
Yeah. So the voice you hear is Derek's.
Back when I had a voice. Well, have a blessed weekend. We look forward to talking with you again next week. Until then, I'm Derek Gilbert. For Sharon Gilbert, we thank you for watching as we keep watch. This is SkyWatch TV. Save nearly half off the cover price when you subscribe now to the brand new SkyWatch TV magazine. For a limited time from April 24th through June 24th, 60 days only, a 5-year subscription to SkyWatch TV magazine is just $99. That's more than $75 off the cover price, which is like getting 2 years for free. Exclusive content, articles on prophecy, discovery, and the supernatural from Tom Horn, Chris Putnam, Josh Peck, science updates from Sharon K. Gilbert, geopolitics from yours truly, and guest writers like Pulitzer Prize-nominated journalist Troy Anderson, renowned Bible scholar Dr. Michael Heiser, Pentagon advisor Lieutenant Colonel Bob McGinnis, and more. But there is more. As an early subscriber, you'll be the first to get this new book from Defender Publishing. I predict what 12 global experts believe you'll see by 2025. This is a $20 value and includes best-selling authors like Joel Richardson, Mark Biltz, Carl Gallups, Tom Horn, Paul McGuire, and more. Find out what they think about the coming war between ISIS and the Vatican, the future of the Temple Mount and the Ark of the Covenant, a worldwide manifestation of angels, and the coming age of human hybrids. And we'll also add this DVD, The Best of SkyWatch TV 2015, a $25 value, including our most compelling interviews from last year, including Chuck Missler, Steve Quayle, the discussion of the Georgia Guidestones with Chris Pinto, and more. All of this together worth more than $200, yours now for just $99, but only through June 24th. Subscribe now, SkyWatch TV magazine. Call the number on your screen or log on to skywatchtvstore.com.